As I look at last year, I think the phenomenon of PizzaPalooza was really about there are lots of new emerging capabilities, and I think a lot of clients wanted to take a close look at how different agencies approach those capabilities. And for the first time in many, many years, there's real clear differentiation in how we tackle data and analytics, how we tackle content, how we structure. So I think they were looking at all of that. I think where we did very well was we pushed very, very heavily into the proposition that media could be a growth driver for clients, and that by using data and analytics, we could tie media very closely to business objectives and optimize towards growth versus towards cutting the bottom line. And I think that's a compelling proposition for clients. I think the other area that clients were looking very carefully at is it's a complex world, and how do you integrate all these capabilities in a way that delivers a solution versus piece parts that they have to bring together. And I think we've worked really hard on building integrated teams, integrating media brands capabilities, integrating content capabilities into the team itself so that it is a solution for clients versus piecemeal that they have to pull together and manage. And I think those were two big factors in our success, certainly. I think the idea, and certainly what we have leaned into, is clients want a business result at the end of the day. They either want a perception change, or they want sales, or they want customers to take some sort of action. And our job is to pull many, many, many different pieces together to deliver on that business objective. And it is a very different perspective than I want to place media someplace. And it involves pulling together data and analytics. It's a, how do we use all the different channels? It's a, how do we use content in that equation? So that a plan ends up looking much different than sort of the traditional flow chart. It's almost a, how is the consumer going to experience this brand? And what do we think the outcomes of that experience are going to be? Which is a much bigger job than strictly media planning and media buying, and very different, I think, to what we were doing 3 or 4 years ago. What I think is very interesting is the traditional media planning paradigm was always define a pretty big, broad target and try to reach as much of that target in whatever the time period was as you could. I think more and more we have the capability to get much more strategic and focused about who the important target or multiple targets are. And we can now, we've always been able to execute that in digital. More and more we can execute that way in multiple channels. So where I see the industry going is less a single plan that you lay down over the course of the year against a big broad target focused on reaching a lot of them, to maybe you have 5 smaller targets, you have mini plans against them that are reacting to what those targets are doing and being optimized along the way. And that's different. That's a really different paradigm shift. So what keeps me up at night is, how do we get an agency who's used to big broad targets to understand segments and how to activate segments? How do we teach them about data? How do we teach them about triggers? How do we teach them about how to respond to the signals they're hearing? How do we manage all of the data you need to do that? Those are absolutely the things that I worry about every day.